Hello, everybody. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur show. And I know I say this at every episode, but you guys gonna love today's guest. Have you ever heard about Crumble? As I started reading about it, I said, I need me some of that. And then I started learning about the owner of that company. I was like, I need me some of that. And then the more we gotten into it, we realized it's not only that she's an amazing human being, she's really good at what she does. And you guys gonna meet her right after this. Hello again, my name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur show. And you guys gonna love today's guest. And I know I say this at every episode, but today we actually have somebody who falls in love with Sam, which is sales and marketing. I always tell everybody you need to not just fall in love, you need to marry Sam. She really took Sam and built something out which is absolutely amazing for the catering and restaurant space. And what she does is all coming from stuff she learned on her own. I absolutely love that about her. And then also, I have a note here where she said from handwritten notes to surprising tasting. I won't give her name yet, but she built a career out of tasting clients, like long-term partners. The way you treat your people, by the way, is absolutely amazing. I love that about her. And not only did she build an amazing company, she really leads with empathy. She has systems in place, and she really does what a lot of people are talking about, and this is the people first mindset. And with that, I want to introduce Kelly Grogan. How are you doing? And welcome to the Disruptive Chef Show.
Hey, thanks for having me. And what a great introduction. I'm so excited to be here.
So can you tell our audience a little bit before we start here? How did this whole thing start? And to our audience, if you haven't done so, make sure you guys check out Kelly's website. And then also, if you could please, on the comments below, let us know what you want her to say and what I will connect you with some of the things she will talk about. And then also, if you have somebody in your group which can benefit from knowing what Kelly knows, make sure you share this episode. So with that, Kelly, talk to us. How did this whole thing start?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing started, I'm going to go back to, my first job in hospitality. And that was working in an ice cream shop over the summer when we had lines and lines and lines, and there was no AC, and it was 100 degrees. And it was all about, those summer months spent inside of there providing hospitality and in the craziest of ways. I think that was my first introduction to how little of a thing like a sprinkle can make somebody's day. And absolutely. Recognizing, and I'm sure the owner is probably screaming about this in terms of food costs right now. But recognizing that a little extra sprinkles in the cup made somebody that much happier. And it was something so small as that made a big impact with the guest. And somebody would always want to keep coming back, or they'd always be looking for my window, or there was just this connection and this smile and this, feeling between the guests that really, that's where I fell in love with hospitality. And fast forward, 13 years later, holding every job inside of the restaurant besides the actual chef position, which everybody is probably pretty grateful for. I decided to launch Crumbs, and Crumbs really started with the last 2-3 years, right, coming out of the pandemic. I was heavily involved in the virtual brand space, and where virtual brands came from were really, how do you as an operator maximize your four walls to get additional transactions coming in? And during my entire time there, speaking with operators and helping them in some of the toughest of times, I felt this passion and this empathy for it. Like, there's so many other things that you could be doing to get transactions. And every transaction is so important as an operator, especially these days. And, how can I help you, right? How can I help you know that like this small change is going to get you an extra 5 orders this week, or this small change is going to increase your average check by $1. And I just kind of felt empowered with that information to want to share it and want to bring it to operators to help them, because I love going out to eat to restaurants, and without those successful restaurants and those extra transactions, there would be nowhere to go. And so that's when I started Crumbs about almost 2.5 years ago now.
That's awesome. And we love that you started an ice cream company because we just expanded our ice cream brand. So maybe we need a little crumbs in it.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but I love that the story and then how you just kind of grew up and all the stuff you did within the hospitality space. But for me, when people get to know you a little bit and follow you, there's something you talk about. Is you call it the hospitality sales myth. So can you talk to us a little bit where that came from and how did that, just understanding that, how did that transform the way you approach sales today?
Yeah. When I look at, kind of my first corporate job in hospitality, if you will, it's right when, catering was taking off. And
Mm,
I was incentivized as a sales rep to, sell more trays of pasta. And I very quickly found that the better the customer service, whether I was calling somebody or emailing somebody or even walking in the front door, the better that level of service was, the much more receptive they were to wanting to answer my call or wanting to place another order with me. And that's where I think I recognized that hospitality side of things was the quickest way for me to succeed and hit my goals as a salesperson. And as I've sort of grown through the space and worked in sales and marketing and operations, that hospitality sales mindset, it's every single department. And I think that was the biggest thing that I started to recognize is that the more that you share that not only with your guests, but also at
yeah.
the corporate level and with your team members, the more it becomes a culture of sales and hospitality. And I think that that's transformational in spaces today.
Yeah, I love that. And also with your background, so you worked literally in almost every aspects in the restaurant. How did that kind of influence who you are, and not just influence, but kind of give you an idea of this is what the restaurant needs?
Yeah. I think it was always, I'm very grateful for my parents and my upbringing, and they put me to work, right? If I wanted to go out on the weekends, I needed to have money to do that, and so from an early age, I was working at the ice cream shop, at the deli, anywhere in my local community that was, hiring. I was like, get me in there, right? Let me pick up those hours and make enough money so I can go out or I can get a car, or I can pay for college, whatever it may be. And when I look at those different sort of roles and how that has sort of shaped this, it has been something where I liked when it was busy at the restaurant. I
Mhm.
hated standing around, right? I hated cleaning. And so, what they say, if you've got time to lean, you got time to clean. And so if the restaurant was busy, my shift went a lot faster. And so it was always one of those things. I was like, well, why is it that way? And I think this element of curiosity in the hospitality space really caused me to look for, okay, well, if I do this differently, I'm going to get sat 3 more times during my shift, right? Or if I, set myself up for success and I, work at it, that means that I'm not going to have to, roll silverware at the end of it. And so it really was this sort of transactional mindset, looking at everything, all of the working pieces of it. And so I think while I've always been in sales and marketing, I have a very strong underlying operations, mindset that I think is appreciated by a lot of operators, because I've been on the other side when a marketing promotion goes wrong, and I've been there when suddenly you get slammed and you're like, what is this? Where did this come? And so it's really kind of caused me to have a passion for having a busy, thriving, energetic restaurant, but one that people can operate within and provide a great guest experience and is stable. Right? We've all been
Yeah.
there when you get caught off guard, but it's definitely, I think that's where the passion has come from.
I love that because you always said, hey, that you once believed that if you the first one in and the last one out, this is how you get shit done. That's how you win. How did that evolving that thought process help you to now lead through systems and not stress?
Oh yeah. I mean, that is definitely, I think, and some may call it selfish, if you will. But like, I've always been one of those individuals that wants to be working smarter, not harder. And when you look at those systems, that's when things really start to click at, the restaurant level. And I think it's, looking from the second that you walk in that front door and following that guest journey all the way from the second their first interaction to, what happens when they get sat at the table, what gets put in front of them, and unpacking all of those pieces has been something that, has helped me to really look for, okay, there's opportunity here, here, and here to either A, provide a better guest experience, B, provide a more profitable guest experience, or C, provide one that's more operationally friendly. And so taking the time to sort of break down all of those pieces, to really, again, just being curious about it, I think is what has really helped me, thrive.
I love that. And that kind of reflects in the message you have. You talk a lot about let's build trust and not just revenue. And you talk a lot about that you focused in the beginning heavily on relationships, over transactions. So how can today's operator, restaurants, food service leaders, whoever it is listening to this, approach that philosophy and see a return of investment?
Yeah. I think it starts with you have to be your own customer, right? And that is, I think, the only way that you'll truly understand what type of a service, a product, experience you're delivering until you truly try to take, your chef, hostess, or whatever that the hat is that you're wearing and put on the customer mindset. And the second that you kind of change that mindset from being focused on, food cost and labor and all of these things, I think you're going to come back to what's actually really important on it. What is going to, because at the end of the day, if there's not a customer in your room, it doesn't matter what your food cost is, right? If there's no transactions coming in, it doesn't matter how great your systems are. And so when you take the time to approach it from the customer's mindset to see all of those moving pieces, that's what's going to help you define, I believe, what'll be important in the back of the house, right? There are systems aplenty to solve for all of those issues. And that is something that you can do when, again, the lights aren't on, right? You can do that when nobody's in the restaurant. But you need those guests to keep coming back. And what we're seeing in the space right now is that, yes, there are surely a generation of individuals that would love to not speak to somebody and they want to just be able to place their order on their phone. And there is definitely a customer mindset that you need to review there. But on the other side of it, of connecting with your guest, knowing who they are, being present and being this brand that they want to associate with, until you're looking at it from the other side, you'll miss it completely.
I love that. So let's stay with that a little bit. So if I'm an operator, and you know what? A lot of the operators do exactly what you just said. I come in and says, hey, what has been our sales been yesterday? What was food cost? What was labor cost? What do we need to do in order today to get ahead or at least be as good as yesterday? That whole idea of focusing on the client, okay, we're focusing on what I eat here, but not really building relationships. So what could they do? Or how can they adopt that? Because you make it sound so easy. It's not an easy task.
No, the first place it starts with is your team. And when you talk about the leadership side of things, is that there's not a single restaurant run by one individual. You've got people that are choosing to show up, people that are choosing your restaurant, people that are the extension of you and your mentality. And so connecting with your team and sharing that same type of energy, that's where it begins. Getting them to understand what's important about the guest process and sharing those types of values, I swear is going to end up being half the battle, right? You need that extension of energy and you need it to be, you can't be a one-man show, right? Or a one-woman show. You need to have these sort of, additional people that are this absolute culture of hospitality. That's where it will extend. And so I think, taking the time to connect with your team, know your team, but make sure that your team understands the priorities when it comes to customers, I think is number one. And then from there, it's, I'm the kind of person where if it's not on the calendar, as I think you've known, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen, right? And so, how are you putting time on your schedule to say, I'm going to use an hour this week to connect with our guests. And that is following up with maybe somebody that stopped in the restaurant, right?
Yeah.
Placed an order online. Is it, taking a time to just do a couple table touches in the dining room? Is it finding a way to just dedicate time to it? Again, shows your team that it's an important activity, but also is going to make a big difference for those customers, continuing to keep them coming back in.
I love that. And again, you make it sound so simple, but I like the whole mentality shift, because what you just saying is totally looking at my operation differently, because it's not just a revenue maker or looking at, hey, what was my revenue from yesterday? It's how can I become a strategic partner, or a just part of our customer's life? Because for me, I think it's so much easier to sell somebody something new or have them try a new dish if they're an existing customer and they trust me for what I stand for and who I am, than a new guy coming in. So for me, how do you feel a somebody listening to this, should they designate somebody as the customer affiliate or a customer focus person, or would that be related back to each of the service? So talk to us a little bit. How do you feel they can implement that?
And nobody will know your operation better than you, and so I don't think there is a one size fits all solution, but I do think there is a mindset that you can implement for, again, working with your team to make this a priority.
Yeah.
And internally for yourself, making it a priority with your team. And now if you're at that type of service level, and you have an individual that sort of shares those values, and in investing in them to really kind of continue to share that mission, I think it's great to empower an employee to say, listen, you're in charge of our customers, right? That customer experience, going above and beyond, looking at reviews, looking at opportunities, looking for ways that we can just kind of go above and beyond to connect with the guest. And now I'm sure there's probably people listening that are like, listen, I own a sandwich shop, right? Like, I don't have reservations, I don't have phone numbers, I don't have this, I don't have that, right? And there's always excuses for like why I don't need to find a way to connect with the guest. And I would challenge them to say, there is, though, right? The second that guest walks in the door, there's an opportunity to connect with them, to speak with them, to learn more about them. There is an opportunity when they're paying, right? There's an opportunity, even if they placed their order online and they picked it up.
Yeah.
Starbucks right now is going back to their personal connection. And recently, right? There's a little note on the cup. Thank you. Have a great day. Put a smile on. And you think about something so simple that every operator could find a couple extra seconds to put a personal touch on every guest that's choosing them. And I think that's really the mentality, right? There's so many options, but
I love that. I love that. I always use the example. I'm a sandwich guy, so I go to Subway, and the reason I go to the same Subway all the time, they have this little thing. I don't have a credit card here, but they when they swipe you, he looks at it. He says, "Thank you, Christian, for coming today." And for me, at first time, I thought it's kind of weird. But now I go there because I want him to call my name. And for me, I see it so many other people, they get a lot out of it. So 2 weeks ago, we were in the shop, and I'm leaving right after this, people. And I said, how cool is it that they kind of say my name? And the lady says, that's the only reason I'm coming here. I was like, it's so important. And for me, I love that Subway came back. I'm sorry, Starbucks came back and do this, because my wife always laughs. She says, they said it at Friends, and it's so true. That little thing, we had a guy in the register, hey, thanks for coming in and giving, with my name. I always thought that was, for me at first, hey, it's just something, it's pretty cool. But I actually talked to somebody, not knowing that other people coming to the place because of the same thing as me. And that lady in front of me said, hey, the sandwiches are not the greatest here, because we have just now Jersey Mike in town. And she says, in Jersey Mike's, I feel like I'm a transaction. Here, I feel like they know me. And it's so true. And what you say makes so much sense, because I honestly feel that's where we need to go as an industry. Because if you just are there for the next transaction, I don't think people are going to come back. And
No.
I think that was a success of Starbucks at first. So also, you talk a lot about from hustle to harmony, and there's so many entrepreneurs, especially hospitality entrepreneurs, which are stuck in burnout mode and struggling, and they're struggling to scale, and they're struggling to stay really, in their sanity. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I mean, I'll tell you, I'm many years of just the hustle, right? And it's a grind. And I think it really goes back to, though, you have to enjoy what you're doing and kind of have that as your North Star, and know
Mhm.
that that's what brings you happiness, regardless of just sort of the burnout and the time and the hours. I think it does, similar to the connection with the guest, it takes a concerted effort for you to kind of pull back and say, okay, here's really what's important to me. And
Mhm.
here are things that I can either hire for, or I can delegate, or I can have a different system. That is probably the hardest thing to do, is to sort of take an outsider's view, right? Become the customer and say,
Yeah.
okay, here's what's actually really important to this. And so I will say, I was definitely on the burnout side of things. And then, when I made the decision to kind of go this path down Crumbs, is because it was something, A, that I loved, and B, that I found such great reward in helping these operators. And for me, in a weird way, I'm working more hours, but it feels like less, because it's something that
Mhm.
I'm able to really dump my passion into. And so I know, looking at the hospitality space, especially growing and working through so many different positions, it's not easy, right? We're in one of the toughest industries that's out there. And so I think it is so important to find your North Star and be very
Yeah.
confident and in what makes you happy, and recognizing, and I think you just did a podcast on this, that about how that changes, right? And that's
Mhm.
okay. But it's okay to keep evolving, but understanding what makes you happy. And once you find that, it becomes a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of um, entrepreneurs, not just restaurateurs, stuck in that burnout mode.
Yeah.
And one of the things we talk a lot about it is, if you don't recognize that, you are already in the burnout mode. Okay.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
for me, I always use me as an example. Okay. I'm my best example I have. I gave up a 40-hour week job to work 80 hours a week. Okay. And I thought I was happy with that. And my wife said, "You look really drawn out and you look really tired." No, 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 I'm good. I'm good. I just need a drink, And I used to drink a lot of energy drinks. And reality was, I had to repivot. And we talk a lot about this. So the reason we call this show the Disruptive Entrepreneur, and the reason we have create on here, because we creating conversation. And sometimes we just need to have a conversation who thinks at things differently the way we do, which looks at things to think the way differently the way we do. And what I love about you is, when I talk to you, I feel that, because it's something you went through. And so, especially a lot of hospitality leaders, they putting out fires all day long. So what is a system or a mindset shift that can help them react from their chaos and make it a proactive momentum?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as we all kind of know, it's a lot about how you start your day and end your day, and those are the things that you're kind of in control of. You have the ability to choose how you wake up in the morning. You have the ability to choose: is it a checklist? Is it a phone call?
Mhm.
How are you starting your day? And I have found that my most disruptive and chaotic and bad moments have come from, a morning that started poorly, but,
Mhm.
because of my own poor organization or my own decisions. And so I think really taking the time to understand how you start and end your day, making sure that either end of that is going to set you up for success on the other one. Those clear sort of like, listen, this is what we need to get through today, and the other stuff, if we get to it, great. But I think controlling that is what's going to be most important. But I think the other thing is really, the systems and finding ways to not get into the rut of the day to day, just like we were talking about with customers and talking about systems, right? How are you finding time to improve your chaos? How are you finding time to build those systems that, hey, inventory is such a pain in the ass for me. But if I was using a system that was out there, it would save me 3 hours in my week that I can put towards something else. And so I would say a great exercise is documenting what's sucking your time and how do you put a solution against that? And whether that's because it's not your skill set, you don't have the right system, or you're not in the right position, that time suck is what causes a lot of the chaos and the disruption.
I love that. So maybe give our listeners a little bit of glimpse behind what is, because you've been talking a lot about this, that the way you set up your day, if it's not scheduled, it's not going to get done. What is the system you currently use to kind of keep yourself organized?
Definitely, I am a calendar and inbox zero kind of an individual. If it is not on the calendar, it's not getting done that day. And so sure, things can move around and you can adjust. But personally for me, I need to keep myself organized by blocking out the time on there. Yeah. And so that's for sales growth. That's for customer engagement. That is for, innovation. That is for right. You need to block out that time just like, and I think as an operator, right, when you have to have payroll done each week. And when you have to have inventory in, and when the truck is going to come. And so how do you structure the other components of your job in the exact same way to give it the same value and importance? So I'm very much that way. I will also say I'm a terrible texter. Don't Slack me. If you want it done, anybody that knows me, don't even bother. Don't bother. Send me an email.
So my team, we got in Slack about a year and a half ago. I'm like you. I'm a terrible slacker. Okay, I love texting. I'm a phone guy. If it doesn't exist on the phone, you don't exist. And so for me, we laughing so much about it because we have the board over there next door, where on the boards we write all kinds of stuff, and we have our 3 values there, and we kind of schedule our day. So we say, we solve problems is our number 1. We drive growth, and we deliver fast. So those are our 3 things. And then so when we talk to clients, we were like, hey, how did the 3 things work? Or hey, I just heard you on this call. Hey, maybe a little bit more this, less of that. And so we kind of coaching each other on it. And it was, it's one of those funny things. And then my marketing person said, but it's on Slack. By writing it on the thing. And it's funny. So I learned Slack, and it's just so overwhelming to me sometimes. But for me, my thing is I love texting. Okay, I love phone calls. And for me, I prefer that over something else. And so for me, I kind of try to go together. So my assistant, he schedules my day, and then he says, connect with this person, because he says, if I tell you Slack or anything else, you're not doing it because you're calling and you're texting. That's just, I think, a generational thing, and I absolutely love that. But for me, it's as simple as that. And for me, I also love when you talk about is that there's many entrepreneurs, we scale really fast and they lose not just the identity, is why doing what they're doing. So how do you keep the heart of hospitality alive in that business you're growing today?
I think that Two things. One, I would say the way in which I connect with my team, I try to be as open and as transparent as possible with them. So they know exactly how I'm feeling, right? They feel comfortable coming with questions,
Yeah.
but they're clear on our mission and what we're trying to achieve as a group. And so they share that mindset.
Yeah.
And so, I think that is one of the most important things I encountered as I've grown as an entrepreneur, is being very selective with the circle you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And the person that you pick day one may not be the right person 6 months down the road. But that inner circle, when you're an entrepreneur, is life or death, right? They're the ones that are keeping you honest. They're the ones that are
Yeah.
keeping the mission going. And so that was one of the biggest things that I had to learn was A, I can't do it myself, but B, being comfortable with those that are around me to share my mission and kind of move it forward in the way that I would.
Yeah. But
And
by the way, I love that. And for me, we actually started this about a little bit over a year ago. My number two came to me and she said, I really don't know what you're working on. I was like, what do you mean? We have Slack, we have all of these things. So what we actually started was really simple. When she comes in the morning, I take 10 minutes. Hey, this is what transpired while you were out. This is what we're doing. This is where we want to get to. Hey, have you followed up with this? And we kind of have this conversation. And I didn't realize how much this meant to so many of my team. So for me, the hardest thing was doing exactly that, is finding a way to communicate what's meaningful to them. And they don't need to know everything, but they need to know where they have an impact in. And for me, if somebody would have taught me this a long time ago, I think I would be much further ahead than the other day. Because for me, that was the hardest thing. And for her coming to me and saying, hey, I really don't know. I feel like I've been left out of the loop. I was like, how, I didn't see that, but it was totally different for her. So for me, it kind of goes back. And that's what I love about your message. And what you just said is the way I communicate might not be important to somebody else. And what they know might not be, and vice versa. So for me, taking that one single task and kind of go around. So we doing family meal for lunch.
Yeah.
And for family meal, I make him sit with me, okay? And we going, hey, what are you working on? What are you working on? And so we order out or we make some food here. And I feel if we don't do it for 2 or 3 days, because, they're working from home or something else, or I'm on the road, I kind of feel disconnected. And then now I know exactly how it felt for them. So it's really, really important to do that. And for me, I always knew that you need to connect the people where they're at, but I never did it. I always thought I did, and I did a terrible job at it. And, I came home and I told my wife, hey, we just did this. And she says, finally, but it's one of the things. And for me, that's absolutely what I love about you. So now looking ahead to the end of the year, what is Kelly working on, Kelly, for the rest of the year? And what is Kelly working on, Crumbs, for the rest of the year?
Yeah. I think I want to say I was born, or it was instilled within me, my entrepreneurial mindset. Like I said, I've got my parents are amazing and sort of building that. And I'm sure they've got some great stories about me. But I would say, for me, this was my first, well, I'm not going to say it was my first entrepreneurial venture. I've had a few before this. But this was the first one where I felt like I was running with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was running, was thriving, was excited, was kind of looking at, okay, what's coming, what's next, what's, going to be best. And the most eye-opening thing for me is that there's just so much more opportunity within the hospitality industry to provide systems and solutions. And in a weird way, that's what makes me tick, right? Is like, I love being able to come up with something that an operator is like, I need more of that, right? Like
Yep.
I need that in my four walls. I need that on, like whatever it takes. And so I really have somewhat of a lofty goal list of like, what are some other things that may be helpful that I can kind of peel the layers back on? So I think personally, it's probably definitely not stepping back from Crumbs, but like, how do I expand it into other things? And I think the other big thing on the Crumbs side of things is how do we keep driving more transactions? How do we become that much more valuable of a player? How do we continue to find those headaches and problems that are disrupting operators from doing what they do best and solving them and being that person that that team that can kind of take those and make it so that they aren't disrupting the guest experience or they aren't getting in the way of transactions and they're not an excuse. And so a little bit of both.
Awesome. So what is Kelly working on, Kelly, for the rest of the year?
Health was number one for me. I will say I was an athlete throughout high school and college, and I've done a handful of half marathons. I've done one marathon. I'll probably never do it again. But it was definitely something I think over the last probably 4 years, right? It was kind of an afterthought. And so it was something where I would come up with an excuse to, not make that class at the gym or, not go for that 5-mile run. And so it was definitely, I recognize myself as a better individual when I do have some of that physical activity of waking up and just kind of having a clear head. I think it helps me sort of reset and be just a better thinker when it comes to business opportunities. So health is going to be number one, and then we'll see. Hopefully, some international travel. I've got a couple countries I'm trying to knock off the list.
So you need to go to Austria because.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. If you ever need to go, I think if you eat Germany, yes, Austria is a better Germany.
Okay.
And so you need to go to Austria. So no, for us, my kids are all Chinese. My wife is American. I'm Austrian.
Yeah.
So we trying to do this 1 year Austria, 1 year US, 1 year China, and so on and so forth. And it's actually kind of nice for me to know that my daughter went to school for the first year in Florence, Italy. And so, I want to say it, but Europe won. So that's really important for me. And so you need to go. If you love,
done.
It's a great place. And everything is so close. You can go to France, you can, Germany, and not so much, but all the other stuff is absolutely beautiful. So,
very cool.
Before we go, Miss Kelly, we want to play something called Rapid Fire Question Food Service Edition. You up for that?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So, but before we start, tell our audience how they can learn more about you, if they resonated with something you said, how they can follow you. So give us a little bit how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow our website is Restaurant Crumbs, CRUMBS.com. You can also send me an email, Kelly@restaurantcrumbs.com. But definitely check me out on LinkedIn. Pretty active in posting and sharing some helpful content there. And if we can help your restaurant in any way, or you just have questions about catering or third parties or just something you need inside of your restaurant, we're here to help make it easy and help you. So definitely reach out.
That's awesome. And then also in the show notes, we will have all of Kelly's information. By the way, she's amazingly good on LinkedIn. She's not just kidding, because she responds to that. And then I have a page of notes. So I will also share my 6 things I learned from Kelly today and all the stuff we will copy and just do a little bit better than she does. So no pressure. And then also I love, we always make this joke that you're not need to date Sam, you need to marry Sam, sales and marketing, because that's the driving force behind anything. Okay, awesome. So with that, let's play Rapid Fire Question Food Service Edition. So the way it will work is we went so high tech. So we took your information, all the things you do, into an AI tool, and it spit out 25 questions. And so we want you to answer them as quickly as you can. Yes, no, and why? Because we're in a food service industry. We want to know why you're doing things, So with that, are you up for it? So the way it works is I will ask you for a number between 1 and 25. You give me the number, I read out the question.
All right.
So with that, let's play Rapid Fire Question food service edition. Give me a number between 1 and 25.
Let's do 11.
11. Is chocolate considered a valid topping for nachos? Yes or no? And why?
I will say yes. Yeah, definitely a valid topping. I think very trendy right now are cinnamon sugar nachos.
Ooh,
And
yes.
so if you're in, that type of a restaurant and you've got chips and you need a dessert item, easy, use the SKUs.
You had me at cinnamon nacho. I'm all
Yeah,
in.
right?
Give me a number between 1 and 25.
Let's do 14.
14. If the food is not spicy enough to make you sweat, is it even good? Yes or no? And why?
I'm gonna say I'm gonna go with no. Still good on the spicy side of things. I think the problem with spicy is it's relative to each personal individual, and so what makes me cry may be mild for you, and so I think it's a personal decision.
I'm good. My kids eat so spicy, it's not normal.
Oh,
And for me, I eat like half that I start sweating and they call me a wuss, but it hurts my feelings, no spice. I'm good. Okay, give me a number between 1 and 25.
this feels like roulette. I like this. This is let's do 23.
23. Ooh, is bacon ice cream an abomination or a revelation? Yes or no, and why?
I would say, relevation. I would say, right, vitamin B, bacon. It's good in any form, any capacity. Ice cream. I mean, sounds good. Give me a waffle.
Kelly, you had me so at bacon. Anything tastes better with bacon, okay?
Right, anything.
Yeah, I had broccoli the other day and I looked at a picture of a bacon, made it already taste better. So no,
Totally.
but up to you. Okay, give me a number between 1 and 25.
3.
3. Is it okay to serve a cocktail in a cereal bowl just to mess with your customers? Yes or no? And why?
I would say yes. Right. I mean, the experience there and the Instagram worthiness, and throw uh, some Baileys in there. It feels like milk. Put some Cocoa Puffs in, and you've got an excellent brunch cocktail.
I need to hang out with you more often, Bailey's and I'm living a two plane of a life, Kelly. Okay,
I mean, exciting.
give me a number between 1 and 25.
Let's do 17.
17. If you could drink soup from a champagne flute, would you? Yes or no? And why?
I don't see why not. I don't have a reason why I wouldn't. I think that's champagne flutes are excellent. If you own them, you probably don't use them as often as you should. So, whatever the excuse is to break them out and dust them off.
That's awesome. And that completes Rapid Fire Question Food Service Edition. Kelly, you did awesome. I'm still on Cocoa Puffs and I'm still on bacon. So anything is better. So we have 2 more questions before we let you go. The first question is, if you look at the best advice you ever gotten, which one is one of them you didn't act on?
Wow, that is an excellent question. Gosh, that's a good one. I'm trying to think. I've definitely received a lot of advice in my time. And, I will say, this one was an interesting one, and you've caught me off the fly. So now I'm just going to go for it. This one, I think I originally didn't listen to it and just kind of, put it by the wayside. And then many years later, it started to make sense to me. And, I had a leader that really tried to, when I was very young in my career, I was very reactive and
Yeah.
In a very non-spoiled way would slam my hands and say, like, that's not fair. Or like, why did you say, and not in that way. But wanting to respond immediately and say like, no, that's not right. Like that, and being reactive in that sense. And I had a leader that really taught me to say, pause, take a pause, and give it some time, let it pass. Things will shake through, and come back to it at a later time, whether it's that day, it's another week, whatever it may be. But the importance of a pause. And I will say, while I was young and eager in my career, I was like, "Are you kidding? I'm not pausing. I'm going to," right, and probably jeopardize some relationships over that, right? And I would say it wasn't until many few years later, that I really recognized the importance of a pause. And whether that's professionally, it's personally, it's in so many capacities, the power of a pause can be really impactful.
I absolutely love that. And for me, it reminds me so much is I heard it once said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I think a pause allows you to do that. And for me, as I heard this for the first time, like everything, I was like, I don't even know what that means. Okay.
Yeah.
And full transparency, I went to Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer said this to me over lunch. He says, and I was like, I don't even know what that means. He says, come back tomorrow and he will figure out. I asked him again. He says, okay, come back tomorrow. And then he says, the day you will find out that you know nothing, And also the whole thing was, when you take a breather and just things change when you look at it differently. And it's so powerful. And that reminds me of that. So, but Miss Kelly, there was a post you had on one of the social media, and we all know you are super competitive, especially on the pickleball court. And you wrote here, when Kelly Grogan is not crushing it in a catering game, she dominates the pickleball court. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I will say, if there's a competition, I want to be a part of it. And so whether it's pickleball, whether it's who can, run the fastest or eat 50 chicken wings or you name it, I want to be at the table. And that has just been my, again, probably something that fueled my career more than I know, but the competitive nature of wanting to win and wanting that sale, wanting the better marketing campaign, wanting the better rate, wanting whatever it may be. Competitive could be used to describe me. Maybe highly competitive, if you will. And so pickleball.
I just wanted to ask for that clarification because, by the way, that was on LinkedIn. It caught my attention. I was like, pickleball. It was like, I'm competitive. I always thought pickleball was like, it is what it is. But it was just to crack me up. So it was awesome. So thanks for elaborating on it, because we can see that there's a little sense of competitiveness around everything you do. So, but we really appreciate you being here. So, but before we go, I just want to say thanks for the gift of your time. Thanks for being honest and playing rapid fire question food service edition. Thanks also for shedding some light on the pickleball game, because I was dying to ask that. But so for me, more than anything, I love the way you look at business. And for me, I have it here in my notes. I wrote it down a few times. It doesn't really matter if you're in food service or not. If you look at the way you look at the industry, it doesn't matter if you do windows, cars, shoes, or anything else. I think you will be highly successful. And then also, we learned that you did a few different entrepreneurial things, but this one, every time you talk about it, you light up. So you cannot do anything else. Okay. You're absolutely amazing with that. So I really want to say thanks for the gift of your time. Thanks for being here today. Any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
I would continue to go back to, how can you find that one interaction every day that makes a difference? And that, again, could be a customer, but that could be an employee, that could be a family member, that could be, one sort of source of connection every day. I think does a lot for the soul, but will do that much more for your business. And so if I could recommend that, I think that would be it.
Okay, awesome. Nothing else to add. This was amazing. Miss Kelly, thanks for being here. And to our listeners, write on the comments below what connected you to Kelly today. What was the thing she said which absolutely you want to implement tomorrow? And not just on the pickleball court, okay? What do you want to implement in your business? And what really resonated with you because there was so many things we talked about. And for me, I wrote down 9, 10, 14 things. And for me, the end of the day, if I sum it all up, it's customer first. And you talk about this in so many ways, in so many different forms, but that's what it is. And sometimes a lot of our business forget about who the customer is. So to our listeners, please share this with somebody you feel like they need to know about this, and also share it with somebody you want to know, hey, they need to step it up there on that side. And then also check out all the things Kelly does, and then also like that episode where she said, hey, you need to crush it on the catering game. She is also amazing on the pickleball call. So until next time, remember to disrupt your kitchen, fire up your career, stay hungry for change. I'm Christian. I'm here with Miss Kelly, and we are out of here. We signing off. So be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire. With that, Miss Kelly, thanks for being here today. And to our listeners, go out there, be disruptive, everybody.